think we're safe here. Let's review the movie. A Quiet Place Part 2 released in 2021. Finally, it released for like a week, I think, back in 2020, but finally out here, released in 2021, and I was able to see it in the cinema. I haven't been to the theater in a long, long time. I think the last movie I saw was Tenet in the theater, and I didn't just watch Quiet Place Part 2 when I went to go watch this. I actually watched a double bill screening of both Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2, and I love Part 1 already, and I loved it even more watching it in the cinema. I really did, and it got me even more excited to rewatch the second one. So watching them all as one big 4-hour movie definitely, I think, upped my thoughts on both movies. But I definitely love the first one a lot more than I used to. I used to really like it anyway, but the first movie is a really near perfect, I think, horror thriller film, and John Krasinski does a great job directing it and performing in it, and he does a great job directing this one as well, because A Quiet Place 2, I think, was nearly better in every single way over the first one. I do have a few very, very small nitpicks with it, but they are literally so small. The rest of the movie I thought was extremely thrilling, and again, because I got to watch it straight after I watched the first one, it was just this big cinematic thrilling experience for me, and I really, really enjoyed watching the second one. It was constantly thrilling, constantly something was happening. The pacing moves so, so well. I'm not going to be spoiling anything about the movie in this review in case you haven't seen it, and I definitely recommend this movie. It was fantastic. Let's get into how the movie opened, because we got to see day one of this event, and it was so thrilling. I could have watched a whole movie of this, but I think seeing the aftermath of this situation is a lot more engaging. And seeing this was so, so exciting. Then got John Krasinski's character back for this sort of prologue a little bit, and it was so thrilling watching this happen day one, watching everything happen. It was so well directed, the action was so suspenseful, and it worked extremely, extremely well to build up the suspense of later in the movie, when a similar event sort of takes place. And it was such an exciting opening, would definitely go down as one of the best horror movie openings of all time, and it was a fantastic way to open the movie. And then progressing the movie on, I just wanted more of that, because that was so good. And but I understand that that opening scene was just the opening. We have the rest of the movie to tell, and the rest of the movie I thought was really, really great. The only issue I could say with how the movie started is that um, after watching the first one directly before it, you can see the kids have aged a little bit since this time, but that was literally just a minor gripe to me. I was expecting something like that, but it was sort of seamless as the movie went on. And something I love so well about the Quiet Place movies is that they're so immersive. As soon as they're in, as soon as they start, they just sort of become engrossing, and whether it's the lack of sound or the use of sound, and the music or the way John Krasinski has shot the film and it just creates a really immersive experience. And A Quiet Place 2 definitely does that a lot better than A Quiet Place 1, because it's able to constantly move its pace. The first movie was very, very slow in the beginning and quickly got moving as it went on, and then all the intensity sort of burned up until it ended abruptly. And then this movie, taking place right after that and just constantly building suspense, was such a great way to open the movie and such a great way to progress the movie along. And as it went on, I just felt so intense, and it was just really an exciting experience. And they really upped the world building in this movie. They upped the character building. We learned more about each of these characters and their decisions. I loved how the kids were developed on as well, them sort of fighting back against these monsters just like their father taught them. I thought was a really, really good way to progress those characters onwards, and they did a great job in terms of splitting up our characters into groups, and they did a good job of cutting between our different characters all experiencing things at the same time, and it was really, really engaging. They also introduced a new character who is portrayed by Cillian Murphy, who was at the opening bit, and there was actually some really good development for him. Someone who has sort of lost his family due to the situation, and now he has a chance to save someone else's. I thought his arc was quite profound. I'd like to see more of his character in the next movie, because I really did like his character in this movie, and I thought his relationship with the daughter character was definitely one of the better aspects of this film to me, and actually did have some emotional weight to it. And in terms of issues with this movie, I really don't have many. The pacing moves so perfectly that as it was going on, I didn't really have much to complain about. But if I had to pick some issues, I'd say the ending, again, like the first one, is abrupt. But the abrupt ending of the first one, to me, has now been fixed, is now a problem that's been fixed by this movie. So perhaps when we get the third one, and I'm really looking forward to the third movie, I cannot wait for it now. Um, this movie also ends quite abruptly. It ends just as the action stops, and you really don't get the time to resonate. I was expecting the ending to go on for a bit longer than it did, but it didn't. It ended pretty much really short and extremely abruptly, just like the other one did. A way that feels satisfying at the same time, feels frustrating because you want to see where the story leads and you want to see how things happen from this point onwards. But it was a great ending anyway, and instead it intercut the finale in a way that felt extremely, extremely intense and actually quite surprising in terms of the direction they took. What something I always loved about the movie was the emotional weight of this family. This movie, to me, another small issue I do have with it is that it didn't quite have the emotional weight with this family explored as much as the first one. The first one explored quite a lot of drama within this family, and the second one doesn't do quite as much with that. There isn't as much emotional drama. There isn't as many slow moments as the first movie, so and hence it isn't quite as emotional, even though it is more intense and more riveting, and there is a lot more happening within this story, and there's a lot more really great nods to things and great things that are brought back from the opening of the movie later on, and it's directed better. John Krasinski behind the camera is fantastic. He obviously just really knows how to direct a damn good horror film, and here the Quiet Place movies are really, really unique. To me, they remind me of sort of the Alien. They sort of remind me of the first two Alien films, where the first one was more of a horror movie in one location, and the second movie was just this epic action movie that was really, really intense, and in hence I actually quite like that one a bit more. This is sort of the same. The first one is a more horror centered film, and this one again is more horror centered as well, but it's much more action packed. There's a lot more going on, and it's much more exciting, and it's pretty much an improvement over the first in every way it can be. And I loved it for that, and hopefully the third one sticks the landing, because if it does, we might get one of the best trilogies ever. We probably will get the best horror movie trilogy ever, because this is a fantastic thriller. This is a movie that needs to be experienced in the theaters, and me experiencing both films back to back in the cinema was just such an amazing experience, such a one to pull me back into theaters. But Quiet Place 2 on its own was a fantastic movie. I loved this film, and yeah, I'm really, really excited to see where they take things within the story. But just this as its own thriller movie, John Krasinski does an amazing job directing this film, and I found it to be such a thrilling, moving, intense movie with the same amount of creativity that the first one had.
Overall, A Quiet Place 2 was definitely worth the wait, and I'm going to give it an A. I'm also going to give this movie a 92%. I really loved this sequel, and I thought it was better than the first one, and its use of visual storytelling and use of sound is impeccable, just like it was in the first one as well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they can take this story in the future, and I think if you want to check this out in the theater, definitely watch it, because these two movies, I think, are definitely very different when you view them in the theater, and the experience is a lot stronger, so definitely check them out in the theater if you have the chance to. And of course, thank you for watching. Make sure to check out my letterbox down below. I have loads more reviews and opinions on there. And goodbye.